Everything changed in a matter of seconds. The final whistle blew. The confetti fell like rain. The Lombardi Trophy was hoisted into the air. Ultimate, undisputed glory was achieved. But in the National Football League, the celebration is remarkably, agonizingly brief. Because long before the parade routes are completely cleaned up, the brutal, unforgiving reality of the business sets right back in. The locker room empties out, the front office closes its doors, and the ruthless calculations begin. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here. Look, if you really want to understand the true, raw, and often cruel nature of this league, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and comment down below on what you thought. And please support what we do here by becoming a channel member. Okay, let's dive straight into this. Today we are looking at the immense, suffocating pressure facing the Seattle Seahawks as they transition from the absolute peak of the football mountain back down into the desperate, violent fight for survival that is the offseason. I want you to listen closely to these words because they perfectly capture the cold, calculating heart of professional football. These are the thoughts of quarterback Sam Darnold. He was reflecting on his abrupt, almost jarring departure from the Minnesota Vikings after guiding them to a stellar 14-3 record. Just think about that. 14-3. And what did he say? He said, "I totally understand the move to go with the younger quarterback on a rookie deal. The business side of it, I totally understand." Darnold knows exactly how ruthless this league is. He was replaced by rookie J.J. McCarthy simply because the math made sense for Minnesota. A cheap rookie contract versus a massive veteran payday. It's a numbers game, entirely devoid of emotion, devoid of memory, and completely devoid of loyalty. And right now, that exact same ruthless business reality is staring his current Seattle teammates squarely in the face.
The Seattle Seahawks achieved absolute football immortality. They reached the summit. They systematically dismantled the New England Patriots in Super Bowl LX, winning convincingly 29-13. When that game ended, they were kings. But as we enter the 2026 season, you have to understand that the dynamic has completely, irreversibly shifted. They are no longer the hungry, scrappy underdogs clawing their way up the mountain. They are no longer the hunters. No, they are the hunted. The target on their back is absolutely massive. Every single opponent they face this coming season has aggressively circled the Seattle game in thick red ink on their calendar. You aren't just playing a football game anymore. You are getting every single team's absolute, undisputed best shot.
Section 1. Champions under pressure. Let's talk about the immense strain on head coach Mike Macdonald. Winning a championship validates your system, sure, but defending it? That is completely different psychological warfare. His team has instantly become the ultimate measuring stick for the rest of the league. How do you keep a roster hungry when they've already tasted the ultimate success? How do you prevent that creeping complacency when every player in that building feels they've already proven themselves to the world? That is the invisible, crushing burden Macdonald carries right now. And the battlefield is officially set with this offseason schedule. It begins May 26th with voluntary OTAs, pushing straight into the intense, high-stress demands of mandatory minicamp from June 9th to the 11th, and culminating in the sweltering, exhaustive fires of training camp in late July. To the average fan, this just looks like a simple calendar. But for many players on this roster, this is a terrifying countdown. It marks a high-stakes timeline where every single rep, every minute in the film room, and every breathless sprint in the July heat could literally be the difference between extending their NFL career or getting permanently cut from a championship roster. And the harsh reality is that even defending champions are not immune to massive structural upheaval. The ultimate cost of winning in the NFL is that other teams will absolutely poach your greatest minds. Offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak is gone. He took the head coaching job for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now Brian Fleury steps in to take over the offense. And you might be wondering, what does that actually mean for the players sitting in that locker room? It means the whiteboard is completely erased. The playbook is rewritten. All of those past successes, they suddenly mean absolutely nothing. Fleury is installing a new system with entirely new terminology. This means every single veteran player must prove their worth all over again to a brand new play caller. Rookies and veterans are suddenly placed on a brutally level playing field, and let me tell you, that creates massive, paralyzing anxiety for the older players who risk being completely left behind in the transition. Section 2. The quarterback's redemption. Before we dive into the specific players currently sitting on the roster bubble, we absolutely must look at the ultimate redemption story at the very center of this franchise, Sam Darnold. His journey is the foundational narrative of the 2025 Seahawks, and understanding his path is absolutely crucial to understanding the culture of this entire locker room. I want you to look at this staggering figure. $100.5 million,
That is the massive 3-year contract Seattle invested in Darnold last offseason. Think about the sheer, terrifying scale of the risk involved here. The Vikings chose to move on with J.J. McCarthy, a guy who had spent his rookie year recovering from a torn meniscus, rather than pay Darnold this kind of guaranteed money. The salary cap implications for Seattle were monumental. If Darnold failed, the franchise would be financially crippled for years. They'd be a laughingstock. Seattle stepped up and made a $100 million gamble on a player many in the league had totally written off as a draft bust. The weight of that contract, the pressure on Darnold to validate that massive investment, it was astronomical.
But let's be entirely clear about something. The 2025 season was a heart-stopping, agonizing roller coaster ride. It was not always pretty. In fact, Darnold led the entire league in regular season turnovers with 20. In Week 11, against the Los Angeles Rams, he had an absolute nightmare of a performance. In front of a hostile crowd, he looked completely lost, throwing 4 devastating interceptions in a brutal 21-19 loss. By Monday morning, the media was absolutely howling. Sports radio was tearing him apart. The critics were calling the contract the worst mistake in franchise history. But, and this is the magic of the story, when the lights were absolutely the brightest, he delivered. He conquered those exact same Rams in the NFC Championship game. And in Super Bowl LX, he played the perfect, methodical role of a game manager to dismantle New England. He survived the pressure. He justified the money. But as we're about to see right now, several veterans on his team are currently fighting a much darker, much more desperate battle just to stay on the roster.
Section 3. Jobs on the line.
The championship honeymoon is completely over, and the ruthless evaluation of talent has officially resumed. The interior of the offensive line is a glaring, incredibly dangerous liability for this defending champion. While Gray Zabel has securely locked down the left side, right guard Anthony Bradford is in severe, immediate danger. He is facing a direct, aggressive threat to his livelihood from incoming rookie Bo Stevens. Now, Stevens possesses overwhelming physical traits and a vicious mean streak that scouts absolutely loved. In the NFL, you have to understand this rule. If a front office spends draft capital on a player at your specific position, they are not looking for backups, they are not looking for depth, they are actively looking to replace you. And Anthony Bradford has given them plenty of agonizing reasons to look elsewhere.
I want you to look closely at this brutal, catastrophic number on the screen, 40.8. That is Anthony Bradford's 2025 Pro Football Focus pass protection grade. To put that into painful perspective for you, that grade places him an abysmal 76th out of 81 qualified guards in the entire National Football League. His overall grade was just 50.6. But why is a 40.8 so disastrous? What does it actually look like on film when you break it down? It looks like heavy, uncoordinated feet. It looks like a player constantly losing the leverage battle right off the snap of the football. It means when a 300-pound defensive tackle executes a speed-to-power bull rush, Bradford is repeatedly getting driven backward on his heels, collapsing the pocket directly into his $100 million quarterback's lap. You absolutely cannot protect a franchise investment with the 76th best pass-blocking guard in the league. It is a fatal vulnerability that defensive coordinators will mercilessly exploit on every single third down unless he fixes his technique immediately. But there is one tiny, fragile silver lining keeping Bradford in the fight, and this reveals the immense psychological discipline required in the NFL. Look at this massive improvement. Back in 2024, Bradford committed 10 penalties in just 578 snaps. He was an absolute flag magnet. But last season, despite playing nearly double the amount of snaps, 1,037 snaps to be exact, his penalty count drastically dropped to just 4. Think about the mental restraint required to achieve that. When an offensive lineman is getting beaten on a play, human instinct screams at you to grab, to hold, to drag the defender down by the jersey just to protect the quarterback. Bradford has actually learned to suppress that instinct. That remarkable leap in discipline is literally the slender thread keeping his career alive in Seattle right now. But make no mistake, if that pass-blocking footwork doesn't improve, rookie Bo Stevens will completely consume his job before Week 1 even kicks off.
Over in the secondary, the anxiety is equally palpable. Even after losing star cornerback Rick Woolen in free agency, 2024 fifth-round pick Nehemiah Pritchett is watching his career slip right through his fingers. His playing time absolutely plummeted last season, dropping from 151 snaps to a mere 91. The coaching staff simply lost faith in him. And Seattle didn't just stand by and watch. They aggressively drafted Julian Neal in the 3rd round, and they added Andre Fuller and Michael Dansby late in the draft. Now, Pritchett is backed into a corner. He must prove his worth in the violent, chaotic, 100-mile-per-hour world of special teams. For a former draft pick, special teams is the ultimate test of desperation. He has to show he is a far superior option as a gunner on punt coverage, which means running full speed down the field and willingly throwing his body into massive blockers than any of these hungry new rookies. If he refuses to embrace that sheer violence, his time in Seattle is over.
Section 4. The Backfield Battle. The tension in the building reaches an absolute boiling point when we look at the offensive backfield. The entire foundation of their ground game was completely shaken to its core when star running back Kenneth Walker III departed in free agency for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Seahawks desperately scrambled to fill that massive, glaring void. They brought in Emmanuel Wilson from the Green Bay Packers, a guy with highly respectable numbers. He put up 1,083 rushing yards and a steady 4.5 yard per carry average. You'd think that would be enough, right? But the front office didn't stop there. In a stunningly aggressive move, they spent a premium, highly coveted first-round draft pick on Jadarian Price. Now, you guys know that in today's NFL, drafting a running back in the first round is incredibly rare. You only do it if you think the guy is a generational game changer. It sends a chilling, undeniable message to the entire running back room: zero loyalty. Absolutely no one's job is safe.
This running back room has become completely claustrophobic. It is a powder keg. You have the first-round golden boy, Jadarian Price. You have the established, proven veteran, Emmanuel Wilson. You have Zach Charbonnet, who we will talk about in a second. And you have George Hulani, who has shown flashes of undeniable promise in the past. This isn't just depth, guys. This is a suffocating logjam. It turns these voluntary OTAs and the upcoming sweltering training camp sessions into an absolute, literal dogfight for touches. The margins for error here are microscopic. A single dropped pass during a routine passing drill on a random Tuesday morning in June, a missed blitz pickup in a meaningless preseason game, that could be the exact moment a player loses their livelihood. When the talent is this concentrated, the paranoia sitting in that meeting room is absolute.
Section 5. Contract Year Ultimatum. But surviving the terrifying roster cuts in August is only half the battle. For a select group of players on this roster, the stakes are exponentially higher. It's not just about surviving. It's about proving they deserve to secure generational wealth as they enter the final, critical year of their current contracts. It is the ultimate prove-it-or-lose-it scenario. Let's examine the edge rushers, where the financial pressure's completely immense. When Boy Mafe signed a massive 3-year, $60 million deal with the Bengals, Seattle pivoted. They brought in veteran Dante Fowler Jr. on a 1-year, $5 million prove-it deal. Fowler has to prove he fits Mike Macdonald's complex defensive scheme significantly better than he fit Matt Eberflus's system in Dallas last year, where he managed a measly 15 tackles and 3 sacks. Eberflus relied on a standard 4-man front, focused on basic gap penetration. But Macdonald? He utilizes incredibly complex simulated pressures, constantly shifting fronts, and requires absolute, unquestioned edge discipline. Fowler must adapt to this mentally taxing system immediately. Meanwhile, on the exact same defensive line, you have Derek Hall, entering the final year of his rookie contract, fighting tooth and nail against veteran Uchenna Nwosu just to get his cleats on the grass.
The panic button has been firmly, aggressively pressed for Derek Hall, and this singular number explains exactly why. 2. That is his total sack production from the entire 2025 season. Just 2. It was a horrific, unexplainable drop-off from his highly impressive 8-sack performance the year prior. What happened? Well, NFL offensive tackles study film religiously. Did they figure out his signature pass rush move? Did they learn to perfectly counter his speed to power transition? Whatever the exact reason, as a 2023 second-round pick, the expectations were sky-high. Now entering his contract year, a 2-sack season is a massive, glowing red flag to the rest of the league. This is a do-or-die moment. He must evolve his technique, he has to add completely new counter moves to his arsenal, and he must rebound spectacularly to secure his financial future in free agency. Every time he lines up, the clock is loudly, relentlessly ticking on his bank account.
But honestly, perhaps no one on this entire roster faces more crushing, agonizing pressure than running back Zach Charbonnet. The timing of his misfortune is practically a Shakespearean tragedy. Just as he was perfectly poised to take over the undisputed RB1 role with Kenneth Walker leaving the building, Charbonnet suffered a devastating torn ACL right in the middle of the pressure cooker of the playoffs. Now he faces a monumental physical and psychological mountain. I want you to imagine the visceral reality of this for a second. Waking up at 5 in the morning for lonely, grueling rehab. Hearing the quiet, depressing hum of the ice machine in an empty training room while everyone else is resting. Enduring excruciating, blinding pain just to bend a surgically repaired knee a few degrees further, knowing full well you are entering the final year of your contract. And the ultimate twisting dagger in all of this? He has to literally sit there and watch through the training room window as the franchise drafts a highly touted first-round rookie, Jadarian Price, specifically to take his spot on the practice field right outside. The sheer mental fortitude required to survive that kind of isolation and pressure is completely unimaginable.
So, we finally arrive at the ultimate question.
with powerful, hungry rookies violently breathing down the necks of established veterans, with devastating injuries testing the absolute mental limits of young stars isolated in rehab, and with life-changing contract ultimatums looming over the locker room like a dark, suffocating cloud. Can the Seattle Seahawks roster actually survive the brutal, unforgiving pressure of defending an NFL title? Will this roster harden like diamonds under the intense, blazing pressure of being the hunted, or will they fracture and crack under the immense weight of the crown? The answers won't come easy, and they will be forged in the fire of this grueling offseason. Thank you so much for joining me today on NFL Nexus. Please take a second to subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and drop a comment below on who you think survives this brutal offseason and who gets left behind. And remember, you can directly support the incredible deep dive we do here by becoming a channel member. Until next time, keep your eyes on the wire because the clock is always ticking.